it's under Seamus's login. So I have some very interesting conversations with people who are actually calling me Seamus, not realizing it's a man's Irish name. So we're having fun and games there with the international buyers. But it's a great week, isn't it, for everybody to be involved in Mehel and for that to be taking place and keeping our focus out there. So that's great. So would you imagine we're on week 11 of our Visit Cork familiarisation sessions. When we started these off, we thought there might be 3 or 4 weeks in it, and we're here now at week 11. We've 2 more lined up after this. And we're going to take a little break then, because there are some other things happening in the industry in Port Ireland and Cork County Council, etc. So we'll give a little bit of space, and we definitely will come back to it, because we've had so many inquiries and requests from both the attendees like yourselves and from the presenters who'd like to give an opportunity. And we're getting great feedback from our stakeholders and from our funders, and so much so that our colleagues in Galway Convention Bureau have decided to do a Getting to Know Galway series similar to this every Tuesday. So if anybody wants any more information on that, please contact us. It's focused on mice product in specifically, but again, it's giving a great focus to local tourism providers. And it's, if nothing else, we've heard as well from people that it's a date in the diary on a Wednesday morning, and it's something to kind of focus on and educate ourselves about products, etc., and to meet up and see each other's smiling faces. Well, we hope they're smiling faces anyway. I'm going to just say to you that this session is being recorded. And if anybody doesn't want to be, if anybody wants to turn off their cameras because it is being recorded, then that's perfectly understandable. And the recordings are available on our website a couple of days after each session. Jeremy uploads the recordings. So if you want to go back and catch up on any of the sessions, please feel free to do so. So I'm just going to hand you, we have 3 fantastic speakers this morning. And we have Terry from Skibbereen Heritage Centre, and we have Dermot from the Kinsale Heritage Walking Tours, and we have Michelle from Cork Opera House. So we're going from west to southwest into the city. So you'll be well educated, hopefully. So I'm going to hand you over to Jeremy. As I said, Seamus and Anne are double booked this morning, so we're down 2 players. But Jeremy is going to introduce our first speaker this morning.
Thanks. Yeah. First up today is Terry Carney, who is manager with Skibbereen Heritage Centre, an amazing museum at the heart of West Cork, which tells the story of the famine and its effects on the region, as well as the amazing environment down in nearby Lough Hyne. And I'll pass it over to you now, Terry.
Perfect. Jeremy, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, I'll just make you co-host again there, Terry.
Yeah, sorry. No, you're fine.
Perfect.
As I said, I'm so glad to have you here. Okay, I'm there. So good morning, everybody, and thanks very much to Evelyn and Jeremy and everybody in Pure Cork for giving us this opportunity. So I'm very happy to tell you what we have at Skibbereen Heritage Centre. So the centre is a Cork County Council run attraction in the town of Skibbereen, and we do many things, but there are 3 primary themes. We initially started over 20 years ago as the Lough Hyne Visitor Centre, but it very quickly became apparent that the famine was the biggest interest. And in the parlance of today, we pivoted accordingly. So now our main exhibition is on the Great Famine, the Famine Story exhibition. We also provide a genealogy service, again, in response to customers' needs. And we kept the Lough Hyne element, but obviously not the same exhibition 20 years later. So Skibbereen, we're just on the edge of Skibbereen town in the hub. They call it the hub of West Cork because everything is around Skibbereen. All the villages are very short, Union Hall, Glandore, Castletownshend, all within 20 minutes. And also we're on the way to everywhere. So we got a lot of groups who stop on the way to the Mizzen, stop on the way to Bantry, stop on the way to Clon, whichever way they're going. And because we're just off the bypass on the edge of town, we're an easy stop, and it makes it very easy. So we're located in the beautiful award-winning old gasworks building on the banks of the River Island. Apologies, I'm not broadcasting from there today, but I have a bad back and I can't drive, but it's a beautiful building. You'll have to take my word for it. Right next to us, we have a free car park and coach parking. We're in all indoor activities. You don't have to worry about inclement weather. We have a gift shop, teas and coffees. Groups also, if they want something more substantial, the West Cork Hotel is just across the courtyard from us. But also there are a myriad of restaurants, like just 5 minutes walk down the town. We have a capacity for a full coach. We're wheelchair accessible. And as I said, we're walking distance to town. What a lot of groups do is they leave their coach at our centre and give the visitors so much time downtown afterwards, and then they come back up and join the coach and leave. So we try and make it very easy for people. And of course, we're fully compliant with the COVID Safety Charter. So the famine, Skibbereen is synonymous with the Great Famine. So as the epicenter of this national tragedy. So there are many, many local stories to bring this period of life. And over the years, again, listening to our visitors, we've developed a suite of offerings relating to the Great Famine. Our exhibition itself tells the big story, but its focus is on individual stories from this area, the famine in microcosm, if you like, because this is what we found really resonated with the visitors. Skibbereen's unique famine heritage means that there are many, many more sites around the town with links to the famine. So to enable visitors to visit those, we developed a leaflet and an app to bring them around the town. When we were doing group tours, afterwards, a lot of the group would come up and say, is there a book of what you just told us? And there wasn't, so we wrote one. So we have a famine story book and staff expertise. We have the expertise to do that. There are three of us with first class master's degrees. So we're all historians, but more importantly, we're passionate about what we do. And we keep developing. And our famine sites videos, then this is a lockdown project. We've been making little videos about some of the sites around the town, some of which are on our website. So the exhibition, it's fully interactive, multi-language displays, artifacts. Now we use local actors to represent the voices of the time, including Jeremy Irons, who's a good friend of the centre with us. And it's designed as a self-guided tour, but we also do guided tours for groups and on request. And like I said, we're all historians as tour guides. But every single person that comes into the building, we say to them, if you have any other questions, please come back and ask. And by doing that, we learn what's missing from our exhibition, and we are constantly updating. Every year, we're adding something in response to what we learn from our visitors, which is what it's all about. Interactive displays, multi-language, as I said, based on personal stories. The exhibition is designed in such a way that it gives something to every level of knowledge, from people who've never heard of the famine before, all the way to people who have a deep interest. And of course, they learn about the other sites in Skibbereen that they can visit and experience it themselves afterwards. And Skibbereen's unique famine heritage means that there are so many. I think Skibbereen is the most important town in Ireland in terms of its famine heritage. And there are many, many sites. The video on your left that's running there now is Abbey Strewery burial pits. Just across the river from us in the Heritage Centre, mass graves, somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 people buried there. Very, very poignant site. And that's just one of 3 mass graves in Skibbereen. And it really hits home when people visit these places. And they don't even have to go that far. Literally across the courtyard from us is the building that housed the first large-scale soup kitchen in Ireland. So, people do travel around Skibbereen afterwards to see some of these sites and experience the famine. Our genealogy service. This is our genealogy team, Margaret on the right and Deirdre on the left. We offer face-to-face consultations by appointment. The by appointment is important because these are busy women, and a lot of people turn up without an appointment and they just can't get it. They're in huge demand. This service is just so popular. Margaret is the most popular woman in Ireland at Christmas. She gets parcels from all over the world and cards and hats and everything. Regularly hugged, the woman is, not during COVID times, but what she does for people really means a lot. And these are loyal tourists then. Once they find where they're from, they come back and they bring family back, and they have a bond and a link with their local area. She's deluged at the moment, the poor thing, because she was in the media again recently for as being the woman who got the writer John le Carré his Irish citizenship before he died. So she's deluged now because there was a lot of publicity about that. But as well as our own service, we try and support genealogy tourism generally. As I said, these are loyal tourists, and you know they have a sense of ownership of their area. So to do that, we have a vast database of records, and we're constantly adding to those. And one of our winter projects is digitizing the Cork County Council burial registers, which have never been done before. So this is new information. So a lot of people find where their ancestor is buried and come and visit the site. Another lockdown project is our graveyard video tours. Hugely popular. The one on the right there now is Affadown Graveyard. If any of you have ever been there, it's just up the road from me here. It's a beautiful place. We have a fascination with graveyards in Ireland, but it seems that extends to our diaspora too. It's so there's a huge interest in these, and they're all up on our YouTube free of charge, and you know, getting good viewership as well. And the last thing we do is a Diaspora Stories project. So this is, so many people came to Ireland as a pilgrimage, I called it, and then they would tell us the story of their ancestor. So we set up this project so people can leave the story of their ancestor behind as a legacy of their visit to Ireland, and that's been very popular as well. So Lochgine, a beautiful saltwater lake, just 5 kilometres from Skibbereen, gorgeous place to visit. And when you visit, you say, oh, it's just as lovely. But if you come to us first, they will have an enhanced appreciation. There's a huge backstory to Lochgine, and we also have information on walks, history, holy wells again, and again a huge level of staff knowledge. We've published 2 books on Lochgine, both of them by me. I'm the Lochgine head, and we've represented Lochgine on media again. So anybody that comes with a question on Lochgine, you may be sure it can be answered in us, but also it enhances people's appreciation before they go and visit there. We have a very high level of visitor satisfaction, and we work hard with that. It's very, very important to us. We're consistently granted the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence every year. And last year we were granted the TripAdvisor Traveler's Choice, puts us in the top 10% attractions worldwide. In 2019, we were also totally honoured to win the Best Tourism Experience in the West Cork Business and Tourism Awards. And I'll tell you, there was some stiff competition for that. So we were truly honoured to win that. But our visitor satisfaction is very, very important to us. And we do a lot outside of the day job. We try and help our community and give something back. All of the festivals that we run an event with them. We put on a week of events for Heritage Week ourselves. We support 2 US colleges coming to Skibbereen every year, College of Charleston and the University of Maryland. They come for 4 and 6 weeks doing archaeology digs and Maymasters, and we support all of that. We survey historic graveyards and put up signs. We do lots of other things to give something back to our community, and really happy to do that. This is another lockdown project. We created a Skibbereen Heritage Trail. So this little map, it's an online map free of charge on our website. This is over 70 sites of heritage interest in the town. And each of these sites either put you onto a video, a blog, or an interesting snippet about the town. And that's on everything from the agricultural show to a historic building to a character of the town. So again, it's just another heritage asset we've created on behalf of Skibbereen, and we'll continue to add that, although I think 70, we're nearly there. Yeah. And we love our town. Skibbereen is a colourful and friendly town, full of characters. It's a very unique personality. This is one of our neighbours just down the road from the Heritage Centre, Mona Best. She runs the most unusual bed and breakfast in Ireland, and that's not just my claim. She has been given that award, but she represents just one of the many business owners in Skibbereen that want people to come to our town and have a good experience, and do our utmost to do that. And Skibbereen has a lot going for it. We have a vibrant town with an eclectic farmers market that's on every week, a huge farmers market. That's actually a misnomer, really. It's an everything market. Right in the centre of town, we have the Uillinn West Cork Arts Centre, always has interesting exhibitions going on. We have our own community-run tourist office in the middle of town, and of course we provide tourism information as well. And we need a tourist office because within 20 minutes of Skibbereen is everything. You know, as I said, all of the villages, Glandore, Baltimore, all the islands, archaeology, whatever you want, it's within 20 minutes of Skibbereen is my boast. And it also has a lot of very, very vibrant festivals running through the year, the Arts Festival, the Food Festival, the Walking Festival, and many others. So there's always something happening around Skibbereen town as well. So We really do hope you'll visit our town and visit our centre, and you'll get a great welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. That was so interesting. And I've been to the Heritage Centre a few times, and the story about Kinsale, or the story about Skibbereen and everything. And actually, it was great now for you to actually extend it and take us on a little virtual tour of Skibbereen there with some of your slides as well. So we all can't wait to get back, I'm sure. So we're heading from Skibbereen now all the ways up to Kinsale. And Kinsale has been making its own headlines recently as well. I suppose one of the most notable being the mention in the Condé Nast listing last year of Kinsale being one of the top 12 most beautiful villages and towns in Ireland. So somebody who's been working in Kinsale in one of the most beautiful towns, which is Kinsale, working there for a long time is Dermot Ryan, organising his heritage walking tours. And I think I spotted on your website, Dermot, a very interesting line that said that the story of Kinsale is the story of Ireland. So over to you now to give us an update on your offering.
Would you believe, since 1966? So it's a long time to be wandering around our own town, but it's a fantastic town. Sorry, can you just see the slides?
Yeah, we're not the slides, Dermot. You're just in the Zoom link. If you just go into the PowerPoint.
Sorry, just I slipped something there. I think I don't have your technical expertise. You see. Still missing, is it?
Yeah, I think if you see there at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little PowerPoint icon just along the bottom. It's the second one over from the right there. Yeah, that one there. If you click into that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, as you said there, my name is Dermot Ryan, and by the way, you're safe with me. We have the COVID chapter, and that, I think we were one of the first groups to do it, actually, when we hoped there would have been a tourist season last year, but it disappeared once we came up to Patrick's Day. Now, some of you probably know Kinsale quite well. It's a fantastic harbour. It gives you the idea and the reason why the town is so popular, because you have the Atlantic Ocean, you have two harbours, you have the outer harbour and the inner harbour, and the river itself then. That's why Kinsale was such a busy place, actually, for hundreds of years for the sailing ships. And believe it or not, there was one of the old descriptions, Cork was described as a town near Kinsale, but I think we kind of passed out in the interval. The other things in the harbour that you might have time to go after the town walk is Charles Fort. Some of you probably have been to Charles Fort, a fantastic star-shaped fort that's unbelievable, and is very well preserved. And then across from that you have James Fort, and of course the Battle of Kinsale. I suppose if you can drive around the outsides of the town, you get a feeling as to what the situation was for the battle between the English and the Irish and the Spanish. The Lusitania then, now I see, is another big story in Kinsale, and I see here today Patrick Begley. He's one of the men organising the new museum out at the Old Head. And there's a man here, photograph is a bit small, but that's Greg Bemis. He's the famous man who owned the Lusitania. That's him with one of the propellers in the States, and he handed over before he died his rights to the local community there. Fishing, of course, then is another huge thing in Kinsale. These little boats were known as Kinsale hookers. No, not the ladies, but these were the hookers, the old traditional fishing boats. And there were hundreds of these in the town, and that was the prosperity of the town was built on that until the fish, unfortunately, moved further west, down beyond Skibbereen, naturally. We start our walk at the tourist office. As you can see, my hair is a bit tidier in that photograph than it is this morning. The tourist office is right in the middle of the town. There's a car park, free at the moment, just next door. Just down from us is are the two McCarthy brothers. They were the great explorers, Mortimer and Timothy. There's a stamp actually being issued in their honour tomorrow by An Post, along with Shackleton and other Irish explorers. Just beyond them then, we come to the Seamen's Memorial. This is the poem, The Boatman of Kinsale, written by Thomas Davis, you know, one of the young Islanders. And back again, of course, then towards the tourist office, the great fishing industry was there. These ladies were brought over from Scotland every year, and they had a dreadful time. You can see there, they're barehanded, gutting and cleaning and salting the fish and putting them into barrels. Across the road from the tourist office is the fish shed. And ladies, you see there the little cement structure at the corner. That's where you had to do your work. If you were a fishwife in Kinsale, you had to wash the fish, clean the fish, and sell the fish. And of course, once you sold the fish, the men got the money. Just across the road from that is an echo of the Lusitania funeral. That's the funeral of the victims that are buried in Kinsale, coming down from the army barracks through the main street of the town. They were passing there the Temperance Hall. That now is not Father Matthew. This was an English group, the League of the Cross, and they built temperance halls to keep fishermen out of the pub. No ladies were allowed to put a foot across the threshold of that hall, men only, and they had games and snooker and cards and newspapers, and they discussed all the affairs of the world as well. Not gossip, that was the ladies. The men were a lot more serious. Across the road from them, then we pass along the Methodist Church. This is in memory of John Wesley and Charles Wesley, just two of the many famous people that came and preached in Kinsale. Up from there are the steps. These are known as the Stony Steps. That figure down at the bottom actually is one of the old Kinsale cloaks. They had them as well in Macroom and in Skibbereen. And up at the top of the steps are the remains of the old convent. Now, unfortunately, your convent in Skibbereen was burned recently. The one here is being rebuilt, and this was a great asset to the town. It had lace making, it had rope making, net making with Scottish companies to try and keep the fishermen in employment, even during the famine times. This is an old map of the town. It shows you there in the bottom section all the landing places, because the flat of the town as you see it today is actually a bit like Cork City. It's all reclaimed from the sea. Part of it was due to the mud flowing down the Bandon River. Part of it is put down to the tsunami in Portugal. Remember the one that destroyed the harbour in Timoleague and Cork-Mac-Sherry and so on, and filled up part of Kinsale as well. And the town then was built on it. This is Market Quay, all reclaimed, but all these very attractive houses and colours built there. We have some of the old laneways then that we walk through as well to give the feeling. Americans love little lanes like this. It kind of really brings back what it was like to walk around a medieval town. The building on the left there was an old warehouse, unchanged for maybe nearly 300 years. Then we go up Market Quay into the centre of the old town, and the imposing building that we come across here is the courthouse. It was the town hall. The bottom section goes back to the end of the 1500s, and the top section then is a Dutch style that came after the wars of William and James. You remember when, after the Battle of the Boyne, the Dutch influence was quite strong, and Kinsale, you see, was a great place because of the harbour, the military defences. It was an ideal base for the English and the Dutch fleets. It now houses a museum. In this building, actually, the inquest on the Lusitania was held, and the seat there at the end, that's where Horgan, the famous coroner, sat, and around him we had a jury of 14. That time coroners' juries were not 12, they were 14, and they found the willful murder against the Kaiser and the crew of the submarine itself. We have some panels like this that we use with the History Society, and we hope to present a copy of these now to the local schools, because I suppose maybe I'm slightly biased, having been a teacher, that young children, they should know the history of their own town as much as we can. The museum also, and I have one of these myself that I show the people on the walk. This is the famous fake medallion, a great propaganda stroke by the English, that it was an original German medal, and it showed the people, the poor passengers lining up to buy their ticket from a skeleton. In other words, they were all going to be doomed because the ship was carrying guns and weapons. But this was used to great impact really to turn public opinion in the States. You had Vanderbilt died in the Lusitania. Hugh Lane, you know, the famous Cork art collector, died there as well. Just a little plug there for the people at the Old Head. They have created, it's again in the afternoon, if you go for the walk in the morning, have lunch, then take a trip out to the Old Head, to the Signal Tower and the Memorial Garden there that they're constructing. Now, back on our walk then, we have a medal of the Old Town Wall, and you can see there, the section in front there, actually, the flat part, is where we walked up before the land, which is now infill, and these were the walls of the town. The town was quite small, only something like 200, 230 houses around the time of the Battle of Kinsale. Around the corner then, we come to a lovely building, Desmond Castle. Now, that was known as the Wine Museum, and the man actually who started the Wine Museum, Ted Murphy, unfortunately died last evening. But the Wine Museum is being closed by the Office of Public Works for the last 3 years. This house on the left here, now it's a kind of a joking name, and it's the Mansion House, but it was actually one of the houses of the men with the sedan chairs. This was like a taxi service, you know, when you came in on your ship. And even in later times, there were ladies in the early 1900s who used to go down to church on a Sunday. They had to be carried down by their servants in a sedan chair. The Giant's Cottage, now being quite honest, is a fake. The Giant of Kinsale did not live here, but the story was he was so tall, he was 8 feet 1 inch. He could stand on the floor and he could plaster the ceilings and do all sorts of jobs. Very handy guy to have around now to change a bulb or something if you wanted him. This was a great propaganda poster. He had a little dwarf drawn in next to him. His name, by the way, it was Patrick Cotter, but he got the idea, maybe he had a good history teacher, that why wasn't he related to Brian Boru? So he changed his name. He went to bed one night as Patrick Cotter. He woke up the next morning as Patrick O'Brien with a poster saying he was a direct descendant of Brian Boru. So just shows you that a PR company was, this is back in the 1800s, were very important as well. Desmond Castle then, this was actually where the Spanish had their headquarters during the siege of Kinsale, which lasted 100 days. The building itself is closed at the moment. We are mounting a campaign to try and get the OPW to do something about it. It was used as a workhouse, an overflow workhouse. The original workhouse, again, to ring a bell with Terry there, that's up in the County Council workyard. That was the administration block in the front of it. The outside is beautifully preserved, lovely stonework and that, but you can imagine the stories that went on in the sheds and that behind it. Churches on our walk, it depends on it. Sometimes if we have individuals, we have a set walk every morning at 10:30. Then we cater for groups and people who have special interests, maybe in religious history. This is a famous church in Cork, Brother Augustine, and the statue there is one of Hogan's best works. The little figure down at the corner there is supposed to be an angel carrying a bishop's mitre. That McNamara, the priest, he was going to be named as the Bishop of Cork, but he died actually in Gibraltar on his way. So that's his sort of legacy to Kinsale. The parish church is at one level. Just behind it then is the Carmelite Church. The Carmelites have been in Kinsale since 1350. Again, a very special building. You can see the roof there. The roof is made of some of old ship's timbers. You can see the curve of the structure there. But the most interesting and the oldest church we have is St. Multos. The bottom section of the tower, there you can see the smaller windows. That was built on military style by the Normans. So it's one of the 3 oldest churches in Ireland. That one, Patrick's in Dublin and Armagh. The upper part and the belfry was added at a later stage. And we have a fish, just a bit like Shandon. Our one is not a goalie fish, he's just a cod. And he's up there on top of the church. It's a fantastic building to visit. Even the churchyard itself with the old style tombs and that. And of course, this is one of the more poignant ones. This poor lady, when she was buried, they had no identification for her. She was actually on her honeymoon with her husband, and his body was found up in County Clare, and she's buried in Kinsale. But we did get her name there a few years ago in 2015. She was Margaret Scheinman was her name, and her name is now a little plaque next to it. Just a reminder of the Lusitania story in Kinsale, which naturally is of huge interest to American tourists, but also to Irish, because you had a lot of Irish crew members there, most of them who actually died because the people who were stoking the coal on that, they were down in the lower regions of the ship. That small yellow thing, by the way, that's Robert Ballard. Remember, he was the man who surveyed it there some years ago. That's a painting showing his underwater kind of mini submarine with cameras on board. The other thing then linked in the church itself is our friend Oliver Cromwell. You probably heard of the Black Irish in Montserrat and the West Indies. Now, the story was that when Cromwell's army came to Kinsale, they weren't too happy with the locals. They had actually backed Prince Rupert, for the restoration. So they were rounded up and they were sold off. And you see there, again, all the Irish names there that are listed that suffered. And out there are places with Irish names. The little village of Kinsale, unfortunately, was destroyed when the volcano happened there some years ago. But we've had people from Montserrat, and believe it or not, they do have Cork accents. Now, maybe not as strong as our own, but quite distinctive when they come to visit the place of their forefathers. Some lovely stained glass windows in the church. This is the one behind the altar. We don't have any of maybe the very famous glass windows in the country, but there are some beautiful ones there, both of like that big one and small ones and biblical stories. The town, again, like we saw in Skibbereen, with colours and flowers, really, I think, makes the town a place to explore and enjoy for both Irish tourists. And we hope with the relaxation now that we can all travel around, that the Kinsale people will go to Skibbereen, and the Skibbereen people and Cork City people will come to Kinsale, and they can enjoy the place and sit out and have a cup of coffee and a takeaway. They can wander around and see things like this. This actually is the old fish market. It gives you an idea that the boats could come right up what is now the Blue Haven Hotel. That's part of the Blue Haven there. And that's one of the old streets after it's reclaimed. The surface of that street doesn't look too good, mind you, probably a bit before Cork County Council came on board. And that is the Blue Haven itself. You can see again the plaque up over the fish sign there. And the off-street, I suppose, dining, the alfresco dining now that we're trying to promote, with the footpaths covered in imitation grass and tables and chairs, will hopefully be out there in a few weeks' time. Just one or two small things then. Anybody who has an interest in military history, obviously Charles Fort, we have some great records done in the Kinsale record, our annual history journal. This was a pump erected to the men of the First World War. This is the site of the Battle of Kinsale. And you say, what's an empty chair doing? An empty chair actually was a very significant thing in Irish history, because when Mountjoy won the Battle of Kinsale, he smashed what we call, I suppose, the coronation's chair of the O'Neills in County Tyrone as a symbol. This was the end of the Irish way of life and the end of the chieftains. And as you know, some people still have a tradition, families, that if somebody dies during the year, when the family gathers, maybe at Christmas or on his birthday, they have an empty chair to remember the passing of one of their own. And one other thing we're having coming up fairly soon is Anne Bonny. We have a few colourful characters. She was the famous pirate, born in Kinsale and went to the Baden out in the West Indies, herself and Mary Reid. And we're having the Cork County Council having a project. They're doing a reenactment and a painting of her exploits in the little place there, the Stony Steps. And of course, then we finish there again for fresh air and lovely sunshine. Make sure you call to the Old Head after you go to Charles Fort and James's Fort, and that after you have your coffee or your lunch in Kinsale when you come to visit us. And like the last speaker, we have been getting the top award in the TripAdvisor for quite a number of years now. And unfortunately, the Americans might be thin on the ground this year and maybe next year, unfortunately, as well. But staycations or whatever they are, make sure you come to us for the day. So thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the, no, the sun is actually coming out in Kinsale. So you can enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you, Dermot. That's fantastic. And I can see from some of the comments that people, Armando just said there, he thought he knew Kinsale, but not after that whistle stop tour. So there's some fascinating snippets. I'm looking forward to meeting the people from Montserrat with the Cork accents. And I must tell you, that's down on the bucket list. Jeremy, I'll hand you over to you to do the introduction from Michelle at the Cork Opera House next. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks Terry, and thanks Dermot for the great presentations. And if anyone has any questions or anything, they can throw them into the chat box there, and we might come to them at the end for any of the speakers today. But last but not least, today we have Michelle Russell, who is Marketing and Communications Executive with Cork Opera House, which I'm sure almost everyone on the call will have been to at some point, and will know that it's an amazing venue for theatre and for music, and also for conferences and other corporate events. So I'll hand it over to Michelle now to take you through it.
Unmute myself there would be handy. Thanks, Jeremy. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Russell, the Marketing and Communications Manager at Cork Opera House. Firstly, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Jeremy, Evelyn, Seamus, and everyone at Pure Cork for giving us the opportunity to come on this morning and talk about our beloved Opera House. I think I speak for everyone really in business in Cork, and perhaps every Cork person when I say that the work you do is really incredible in putting Cork on the map. So thank you for that. So there is the Opera House in all its glory. Where, for those of you who don't know who we are, I think a lot of you are familiar with us. We're located on Emma Place, just next door to our lovely neighbours, the Crawford Art Gallery. I'll start with a little bit of history. I'll keep it brief, otherwise I think we might be here until next week. But so the Opera House began its life as the Athenaeum in 1855 and hosted its first performance in January of that year. It later became the Munster Hall, which was kind of in response to the Royal Theatre closing at the time, and when it was taken over by the postal authorities. So you'll know that as the GPO today. In 1877, it was renamed the Cork Opera House. I suppose as the Athenaeum, it was built really for the promotion of science, literature, and the fine arts, and was more kind of as an exhibition kind of hall for lectures, meetings. And while it was equipped for theatrical performances, it was widely held that the acoustics were pretty terrible. But we hope that you'll agree they've improved significantly since then. So as I said, it later became the Opera House, and that was following extensive reconstruction. So C.J. Phipps of London, who was responsible for around 20 theatres, including the Gaiety in Dublin, he was commissioned to redesign it and re-equip it as a theatre proper. So some notable visitors included Charles Stewart Parnell and Charles Dickens, and the American actress Sarah Bernhardt. I suppose I can't really speak about our history without talking about one of the most dramatic events in our story. So having survived the terrible burning of Cork in 1920, the Opera House was to succumb to a similar fate in its centenary year when it burned down as a result of an electrical fault. That fire was actually fueled even further by the existence of wooden materials. So the Opera House of old was primarily built of wood, and it said that the fire chief at the time, it gave him nightmares, and he said that if there was even the smallest fire, it would go up like matchsticks, which essentially it did. So on the evening of the 12th of December in 1955, there had actually been a panto rehearsal, and I think that knowing what our building is like and the lead up to a panto, you know, it's full of anticipation, excitement. So I suppose we can just imagine that happening. Everyone went home that evening and were excited for what was to come. I suppose only many saw the flames from their homes across the city. So I suppose you'll see there the Evening Echo the following day. And the headline, I think, really sums up the feeling of loss that was felt throughout the city. You know, it's no secret that the people of Cork they feel a sense of ownership over their Opera House and a great sense of pride. they were just, I suppose it was just devastating. In the spirit of Cork people, I suppose, and I think anything like this happens in Cork, people tend to rally around. So what followed was a 10-year fundraising campaign by the people of Cork to fund the cost of a replacement venue. And in 1965, the Opera House, as we kind of know it today, was reopened. So I suppose that brings us to the Opera House of recent years. You might be familiar with this image. It was created by a graphic designer of ours a few years back. I just think personally, I really love it. And I think it just kind of, you see the two merging together. It's kind of our history and our future, and our past and our present, really. So as the region's premier arts and entertainment venue, our mission is to present and produce a diverse programme of performances for each and every member of our community. And that's really central to what we do. Our audience really is at the centre, and we always say at Cork Opera House that there is something for everyone. So we welcome a high quality and diverse range of local, national and international artists to our venue across all art forms, be it music, comedy, theatre, opera or dance. And these are just a selection of those artists. Some may be familiar to you. You may have attended some in the past. We're also really proud to work with some of the festivals in Cork. So Cork Midsummer Festival, which takes place in June each year. The Guinness Cork Jazz Festival, which is always a great weekend in the city, and the Cork Folk Festival. And you'll see there from the image of the Folk Festival that one of the headline events of last year's Folk Festival took place on our stage behind closed doors for obvious reasons. So as well as being a receiving house, we're also a producing house. And we're actually really, really proud of the work we produce ourselves. We invest heavily in it. And I suppose many of you might be familiar with our annual summer musical. We're the leading producing venue of musical theatre in Ireland. And we produce large-scale musical theatre during the summer months. So what's interesting about that is historically, the summer would have been a time where theatres would be closed, they'd shut. And a number of years back, the team at Cork Opera House made the decision to remain open during the summer, and I suppose so the summer musical was born. We're proud, I suppose, to provide employment during a time when previously there wouldn't have been work for arts professionals. So our summer musical is also an opportunity for us to work with the stage schools in Cork. And we're really happy to, I suppose, be a part of the journey of Cork's children. And, there's been many who've gone on to have successful careers in the performing arts. So it's lovely to have them on our stage. As well as that, we take our commitment to the city very seriously. And the knock-on effect, I suppose, for the economy of the city is something that, we're really proud of, that our kind of big productions have. You'll have people coming into the city, be it for the day, they'll pay for parking, they'll, go to the restaurants and do a bit of shopping maybe. Others will make a break of it and they'll stay in the hotels. So we're really proud of that, and to work closely with our hotel partners and our restaurant partners on that. We've had countless titles of musicals over the years, from The Sound of Music, Grease, Hairspray, Singing in the Rain. Our two most recent ones would be Annie and The Wizard of Oz, as you'll see there. And the demand really is really there. I remember Annie, the complete run sold out and people were just crying out for tickets, so much so that we had to extend it by a week. And the same with Grease in 2013. So we're really proud of that. Our Panto is another one. It's our biggest show of the year. And it's a real treasured Cork tradition. You know, I think everyone just holds it really close to their hearts. And it's also, I suppose, for many, it's their first exposure to live theatre as children. And also, you know, we speak to a lot of people and they say that it was their first time performing on the stage. And again, it goes back to, you know, to the kind of working with children on their journey, I suppose, into the performing arts. So obviously we're an opera house, so what would we be without opera? Our recent addition to our program over the last kind of 6 years has been the Cork Opera House concert series. So it's a program of concert performances, so it's slightly different format. So it features our very own Cork Opera House Concert Orchestra, a chorus of the Cork Operatic Society, and a host of local, national and international soloists, including Magella Culla, as you'll see there, Gavin Ring, Emma Nash, Joe Corbett, Niamh O'Sullivan, and many more. We're really, really proud of it, and it's grown considerably over kind of annually over in recent years. It's kind of part of our mission really to bring opera back to the stage. And this kind of program is central to that. In addition to that kind of opera and classical programming, in 2019, we presented the inaugural Cork Proms. It was a resounding success, and people of Cork really came out in their droves to support it. We had 3 nights of music. The first, which was a night of midsummer music, which was just classical. The second was a night of Broadway music, which was the hits of Broadway musicals. And the third was a Divas Night, which was a mix of music from Queen, Prince, Alanis Morissette. And that featured Magella Culla, Camilla Gratial, Karen Underwood, and Leisha Leahy. And I suppose that mix of different performers, you know, and it was an opportunity, I suppose, you know, you had Magella singing the more contemporary music, and I suppose Karen and Leisha with the backing of an orchestra. So it was really lovely, and we were really, really proud of it. Another of our shows that we produce ourselves is the Right Here, Right Now Festival. So for those of you who aren't aware of it, it's in collaboration with Scotland's Live. And it's a festival really which celebrates the vibrant and eclectic music scene right here in Cork. So it's very Cork-centric. It also, our orchestra are also involved in that. And, you know, we've had the likes of Mick Flannery, Jack O'Rourke, Marlene Enright, the Franken Walters, and they've actually played with the backing of the orchestra. So it's quite diverse. And we also last year had a night of traditional and folk music, which included the orchestra also, which was really, really special. So that brings me to our Cork Opera House Concert Orchestra, which, as Ella mentioned, is central to a lot of the programming that we do. So it was established in 2016, and it was born, I suppose, from the desire of our CEO, Eileen Gleeson, to kind of have a more solid foundation for opera and classical music programming. It's made of professional musicians who are either from Cork, live in Cork, or have a connection to Cork. What's lovely about it is that I suppose the orchestra takes centre stage. They're an orchestra who spends more time on the stage. So and over the past 5 years, they've really kind of broadened into more of the mainstream music, as well as being involved in the opera concerts, which is quite lovely. We're also partnered with UCC. So since 2018, we've been in partnership with University College of Cork. I suppose the aim of the partnership is to work together to educate and inspire the next generation of arts professionals. So there are 4 pillars to the partnership. The first, which is the MA in Arts Management and Creative Producing. which we were heavily involved in kind of creating. Internships, which gives the students, I suppose, an insight into a working theatre, a PhD, and a theatre artist in residence, which was previously John McCarthy. So the students actually are also working on their festival, which is part of their end of year kind of project, I suppose. So it's called Out of Orbit. So do keep an eye on that. I've had a sneak peek at the full program myself, and it's really exciting. So I suppose all of that work came to a bit of a halt on the 12th of March last year. It's been an incredibly challenging time for us, as it has been for so many other arts organisations and businesses. Live performance really is at the heart of what we do. You know, we always say the basis of our business, and the reason we exist is to bring people together. So I suppose to be told to stay apart and to not be able to do that, it's just been really devastating. To give you an idea, I suppose, so 95% of our revenue is generated from ticket sales. So I suppose that was kind of put on pause overnight. So it's just been very, very challenging. I suppose, like all businesses, we've had to adapt and to pivot. And late last year, with the support of the Arts Council and Cork City Council, we were in a position to provide an online programme, which gave us the opportunity to connect with our patrons again and to do our part to support our local artistic community. The reimagined programme featured some of Cork's best artists, including Mick Flannery, Jella Culla, Molly Lynch, Karen Underwood, and many more. It really put our local artists front and centre, and we were delighted to be in a position to showcase the incredible talent that Cork has to offer. We were also delighted to be able to still present two of our festive highlights, which was the annual Cork Opera House Christmas concert, which we streamed online over a number of nights. Just since Dermot was talking about Kinsale there, you'll see Emma Sophia, who's a little singer from Kinsale. So she made her stage debut with us at the Christmas concert. Panto is obviously a huge part of our Christmas programme, and we were delighted to be able to offer an alternative Panto this year. So it was called Nanny Nelly's Pantotelli, and it involved Nanny Nelly kind of reminiscing on the Pantos of the past and taking a trip down memory lane. And we had great reaction to it. People tuned in, I suppose, from all corners of the world. So we were delighted to be able to bring that to people. So despite the challenges, we're hopeful and optimistic for the future. We are encouraged, I suppose, by the fact that Cork Opera House has persevered through many crises throughout its history. And we're doing everything we can to adapt so that we can come out of this one also. We are continuing to programme for 2022. Many shows have been rescheduled, and our patrons are remaining loyal to that programme. They're starting to book, and they're keeping their tickets. Digital, obviously, we don't think is going anywhere. We are getting a programme ready, so similar to our on-stream programme from last winter. So we'll be doing something kind of later in the summer and into the autumn. And I suppose, as I said, digital isn't going anywhere. So we do kind of foresee that it might be the case that for a while we'll do kind of in-person events, but with the element of streaming as well. So yeah, we're hopeful and we're optimistic. And I suppose we just really, really look forward to the day where we can open the doors and have people sitting in our auditorium again. So we look forward to that day. So thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That's fantastic. God, all the history behind Cork Opera House and all the and all of the different collaborations that you have with UCC and the way that you've turned things around, the Right Here, Right Now festival. So well done.
Yeah,
I know
thanks, Evelyn.
I know there was a direct question in the chat room from Anna from A Touch of Ireland, wondering about the capacity from a kind of a meetings or a conference point of view, if you happen to know that information.
So for a conference, we do hold conferences in the auditorium. So our auditorium holds 900, so 904.
That's great. Yes, absolutely. We've looked at it before with a couple of clients who, you know, are very interested in it as a venue. But I suppose first and foremost, it's got its own schedule, so it's a case of working around that usually, isn't it? Yes. So thanks again.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely do reach out to us.
That's brilliant. So interesting, and so many interesting and heartwarming comments actually on the chat as well. Great feedback for yourself, Dermot, and actually we're joined this morning by the Swiss Honorary Consul, who mentioned that how famous Skibbereen is in Switzerland. So that's very interesting as well. There's some lovely snippets that we're picking up here this morning. We had over 70 participants again this morning on week 11, which is pretty phenomenal. So we're delighted with the participation. We really appreciate the support. If anybody has any questions or any comments, you know, raise a hand virtually or in reality or whichever, if you would like to say anything just before we finish up. Oh, Padraig has his hand up there in real life. You're on mute actually there, Padraig. You might.
Yeah, I've just switched it on.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'd really just like to congratulate Seamus, Evelyn, Jeremy and Anne, the team at Pure Cork, for presenting this series, which has been absolutely wonderful. The diversity in the county is just amazing, and the cooperation between the various sites is just extraordinary. A case in point is Dermot this morning flagging up our project at the Old Head. I mean, it's very generous of him. I mean, I know he does send a lot of people from his walks out to the Lusitania Garden and the Signal Tower. And we send people all the time to Skibbereen, and we get a lot of feedback from Skibbereen, which seems to be probably the greatest site in the county, I think. English people even love it. And they do have a guilty look in their eyes as they talk about it, but it does explain a lot to them, which they do not know. Basically, that's all I want to say. Is congratulations, Pure Cork. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That's really nice of you to say, Padraig. Very, very nice to take the time for the comments. So we appreciate it. We've enjoyed doing them as well ourselves. You know what? It's Jeremy who's doing a lot of the work behind the scenes and the technology and coordinating a lot of the people as well. So, but between us all, we're a small team, and we enjoy doing them as well because, you know, I suppose it's unusual times, and we're finding we're getting a lot of work done in terms of projects and that. But it's always good. We're so used to seeing people, and we're such a people-focused industry that it's important for us even to see people virtually. It's so important for us ourselves. I know for me anyway. So thank you very much. And some lovely comments coming up as well. So that's great. I think just the diversity of the product that's available in Cork, whether it's in the county or whether it's in the city, is just phenomenal. And it was an opportunity, I suppose, to kind of give the less well-known, and which might be the wrong term for it, but more the less, maybe the less known amongst ourselves. They might be more known amongst visitors and tourists, but oftentimes we don't know what's in our own neck of the woods. So that's important as well. And we've had some great participation from our, you know, from our DMC and other agents and tour operators as well. So we're hoping that there'll be a knock on and that people will be promoting and including some of these opportunities in future programs, etc. So I'm not sure if I can spot if anybody else has any hands up or anything that they would like to say. As I said, there's some lovely comments, and I hope everybody who presented today got to read all of the very positive feedback about themselves. Jeremy, I don't think there's anything else in terms of housekeeping or anything to be mentioned before we sign off for today.
I think Dermot just wants to come back in there. I saw Dermot mention earlier. He was actually he mentioned seeing the Opera House burn back in the day.
Yeah.
Was one of the things. You're actually on mute there, Dermot.
Yeah, they're phenomenal things. Actually, you know, that's really living through history. So
I was a prisoner in Farnforest College the night it burned down. So we were hanging in the windows of the dormitory, looking down at the fire in the middle of the city. So that was my contribution. 1955. God.
Wow.
a bit depressing when you think how long ago it was, you know. Just one small thing, I got a couple of texts there about walks. We honestly don't know when we'll be allowed function again, you know, that everything changes from day to day. Maureen, I heard, might have a bit more up to date than I would have, but we just have to keep our fingers crossed and, you know.
Yeah, I think that we're still just not to delay things, but we're still stuck with 2 per household, or sorry, two households maximum, which would mean you and a family possibly at this stage would be allowed from the 26th of April.
Yeah.
No, now we're allowed. So it's, yeah, outdoors with distancing. You have your COVID charter, Dermot. So I would thought maybe you wouldn't be able to take a big group at the moment. No.
No. You see, what we do normally, we do a kind of a casual thing at 10:30, and then we do organized groups and on request, you know, like coach groups and that. But obviously, the coach groups are not functioning at the moment anyway. If they'll ever function this summer, I don't know. I can't see any Americans coming in any numbers. And Irish tour companies, you know, like Cabinets and all these, Cronus now are hoping to get small groups, you know, like kind of SUV things with 5 or 6 people in them. We're working in the dark, to be quite honest. The best thing is, and of course, our tourist office is closed and all the hotels are closed, so that there's not Airbnb. Obviously, will be thriving, but
I know it's difficult, tricky times, all right, Dermot, but you know what?
We survive. You know that if we survived all the rest of our history, another year isn't going to make any difference anyway, you know.
Absolutely, that's it. I hope I'm not missing out on anybody else now who did want to comment. I don't think so. Jeremy, you don't spot anybody else there now. It's hard to...
Yeah, Seamus here. Maybe
okay, perfect.
To make a comment. Basically, I suppose with the pandemic, we're all forced to collaborate in some shape or form, and maybe we should be doing more. Like, I'm a genealogist in Mitchelstown, which is, I don't know, 100 and something miles away from Skibbereen. Like, but I feel that maybe that we should, as a grouping, maybe form a body that would give us more power to market or do forensic searches, because I know there's over 1,000 people, Irish people, dead in England at the moment that can't trace their kin to reunite their assets or their asset property or whatever, because the lack of information and maybe, you know, collaboration there might solve the puzzle somewhere. So there's equally, but you know, that there's lots of little areas like that things could be helped, and we'd all benefit.
Absolutely. Thanks, Seamus. And thanks to everyone. And sorry we kept you a little bit longer today, but you know what, it's good to hear people's feedback as well. So looking forward to seeing everybody again next week, and I hope you enjoy some sunshine today and get out in the fresh air. So thanks very much. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.